The billionaire hadn't lifted a finger to dance with anyone that day until the black cleaning lady walked in with her little girl, and, in an instant, the entire room shifted. What is the meaning of this rubbish? Vivian Lancaster's voice sliced through the glittering air of the golden ballroom, sharp and cold. How dare this woman bring a child into the most exclusive ball in San Francisco? Every head turned, eyes locking on Lena Brooks, 32, who had just stepped into the grand ballroom of the Regency Plaza Hotel with her 8-year-old daughter, Sophia. By all accounts, Lena didn't belong there. She wasn't a guest, she wasn't a socialite, she was a maid. Her shift had ended hours earlier. But Sophia had left her favorite doll in the women's dressing room during an earlier visit, and the little girl's tears had been so relentless, Lena had no choice but to come back and retrieve it. Vivian's gloved hand lifted like a queen delivering a command, diamonds glittering in the chandelier's light. Security. We halved intruders. Around her, silk gowns worth more than Lena's yearly wages swayed as the city's elite whispered behind crystal glasses of champagne. "Mommy, why is that lady yelling at us?" Sophia whispered, clutching her doll tightly to her chest. Her hair was neatly braided into 2 plaits Lena had done that morning before work. "It's okay, sweetheart," Lena murmured, her voice steady despite the heat of humiliation prickling her skin. "We're just going to get your things and leave." But before she could take a step, 2 security guards moved to block the exit. Across the room, Ethan Lancaster, 35 years old, billionaire heir, and the reluctant prince of this opulent circus, watched it unfold. He was used to his mother's theatrics, her ability to turn any evening into a social battlefield. But something about the way Lena stood, chin lifted, eyes unbroken, and the way the little girl clung to her, stirred something deep in him. Vivian approached her son with a smile so polished it could cut glass. "Ethan, darling, just look at this disgrace. Some people simply have no sense of boundaries." Lena stood rooted in place, enduring the stares, the muttered judgments. This wasn't new to her. She'd grown up as the only black girl in private schools filled with wealth and whispers, surviving on scholarships and grit. She knew the taste of quiet humiliation. "Ma'am," one of the guards said evenly, "I'm going to have to ask you to leave." "Of course," Lena replied, her tone calm but unyielding. "I only came to pick up something my daughter forgot." Vivian's laugh was sharp and cruel. How convenient. Strolling in on the very night the richest men in San Francisco happened to be here. And that's when Sophia, small, fearless, and completely unfiltered, looked straight up at Vivian and asked, "Why are you being so mean to my mom? She works really hard to take care of me." The room froze. The music died. Conversations evaporated into a thick, electric silence. Vivian's lips faltered. Ethan's eyes didn't leave Lena as she knelt to whisper something to her daughter, a soft secret that made Sophia's face bloom into a smile, even under the weight of 1,000 stares. There was something about the way she moved, something effortless, something no diamond necklace or designer gown could ever imitate. Sophia, all wide-eyed innocence, tilted her head toward the crowd. "Do any of you know how to dance? My mom does. She's amazing. She even taught me ballet from YouTube videos." The words hung in the air, simple and pure, cutting through the tension like a warm light in a cold room. Before he even realized what he was doing, Ethan Lancaster found himself crossing the floor toward them. Vivian's gloved hand shot out to stop him, but he brushed it aside as though she wasn't even there. "May I have this dance?" His voice was calm, but carried across the room. Every conversation died. 200 of Manhattan's wealthiest froze in disbelief. The city's most eligible billionaire was asking the black cleaning lady to dance. Lena's eyes fell to his hand, unsure if it was an invitation or a trap. But then Sophia whispered, "Go on, Mom. Show them." And so she did. The moment the music swelled, Lena's body became something else entirely, grace and power woven together in perfect harmony. She danced like someone who had trained for years under the finest masters, every step a story, every turn a poem.
People forgot to breathe.
Vivian's confident smirk faltered, her mind realizing, too late, that she had underestimated the very woman she tried to shame. No one in that glittering ballroom knew it yet, but this was more than a dance. It was the spark of something that would shake their insulated world to its core. Kindly do us a quick favor. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you are touched by this story. Your support keeps us creating and sharing more powerful stories as this one. Thank you. Now, let's get back to our story. When the music ended, silence reigned. Even the orchestra seemed stunned. Lena stepped back from Ethan, and the hush that followed was so heavy, you could hear the faint rustle of silk gowns. Impossible, Vivian whispered, just loud enough for it to carry. Where could someone like her learn to dance like that? Sophia ran into her mother's arms, her little face glowing. Mom, they saw. Everyone saw how amazing you are. Lena hugged her daughter, but her gaze never left Vivian. She knew that look. The same look that had stolen everything from her 15 years ago. Ethan, Vivian hissed, yanking her son's arm.
We need to speak. Now.
But Ethan didn't move. You dance like a professional, he said to Lena. Where did you study? Her breath caught. A long time ago, she said quietly. A long time ago? Vivian stepped closer, her tone sharpening. Because I'm quite certain someone in your position wouldn't have had access to classical ballet training. Before Lena could respond, a man stepped forward from the crowd. Victor Hartwell, one of the most respected dance critics in San Francisco, was studying her with wide-eyed disbelief. Forgive me, he said, but I know that technique. That's Royal Ballet School training. And I know only one person who danced like that. Lena's stomach dropped. She grabbed Sophia's hand. We have to go. Wait, Victor called after her, ignoring the urgency in her voice. You can't be. No, impossible. Lena Carter died in a car crash 15 years ago. The name hit the room like a gunshot. Conversations erupted in murmurs. Faces turned pale. An older woman gasped. The prodigy, the one who was going to be the first black principal ballerina at the Grand Pacific Opera House. Mom, Sophia asked, confusion clouding her voice. Why are they talking about a dead person? Lena's chest tightened. 15 years of hiding. 15 years of pretending she'd escaped. But the past had a cruel habit of kicking down doors when you least expected it. Vivian's lips curved into a cold, knowing smile. Her mother, she said, is not who she claims to be. Because the truth was, Lena Carter had once been the brightest star in the San Francisco ballet scene. At 17, she earned a full scholarship to the Royal Ballet School. At 20, she was poised to make history as the Metropolitan Opera's first black principal dancer. Until the night Vivian Lancaster appeared in her dressing room. You have talent, Vivian had said back then. But talent alone isn't enough. This world has rules, and certain doors simply don't open for certain people. Lena had laughed in her face. My talent will open them. We'll see, Vivian replied with a smile like ice. A week later, Lena's world collapsed. Fake intimate photos flooded the tabloids. Lies about drug use spread like wildfire. Sponsors withdrew. The Metropolitan cut ties. In less than a month, she was ruined, her career obliterated, her name dragged through every gutter in the city. Lena Carter vanished. She became Lena Brooks. She swore she'd never dance again. She cleaned hotel rooms. She waited tables. She raised Sophia alone. And now, standing in the golden ballroom, Vivian's voice dripped with false sweetness. Well, isn't this a coincidence? The famous Lena Carter, showing up at our charity ball. The very family who, once upon a time, did so much for you. Ethan's eyes moved from his mother to Lena, trying to read the silent battle between them. Mom, what are you talking about? Vivian's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. I'm talking about justice, long overdue. Your new friend isn't just a cleaning lady, Ethan. She's a fraud. A woman who deceived the entire dance world 15 years ago. Sophia's small fingers tightened around her mother's hand. Mom, are you okay? Lena looked down at her daughter, then back at Vivian and finally at Ethan. For years, she had carried the weight of what happened, believing she had been nothing more than a victim of cruelty and power. But here she was again, standing in the lion's den, surrounded by the same predators who had once destroyed her dreams. And for the first time, she realized something that made her spine straighten. She wasn't that frightened 20-year-old anymore. She was a 32-year-old woman who had survived their worst and learned from it. And this time, she would be ready. "You're right about one thing, Vivian," she said, her voice calm but laced with steel. The sound of it made nearby conversations fade into silence. "I'm not the same person you tried to destroy 15 years ago." What Vivian didn't know was that those 15 years hadn't just been about survival. They'd been about preparation. And now, back in the very world that had cast her out, Lena was ready to prove that some people don't just survive a fall, they rise higher than before. In the 3 days that followed the fateful dance, Vivian moved like a seasoned predator. She called in favors, whispered into ears, and spread her poison through the city's elite circles. She had done this before, destroying reputations with a single phone call, and she did it now with chilling efficiency. "Dr. Williams," she said smoothly into the phone to Sophia's school principal, "I'm deeply concerned about a situation involving one of your students, Sophia Williams. Let's just say her mother may be involved in questionable activities." Across the city, in a small apartment with peeling paint and secondhand furniture, Lena sat at her kitchen table. But she wasn't crying. She wasn't panicking. Vivian expected her to crumble, but instead, Lena was working. She had spread out a stack of old documents across the table: birth certificates, letters, official records, and, most importantly, photographs and medical files stamped with dates. Each one was a piece of a puzzle she had kept hidden for years, a puzzle that painted a very different story from the one Vivian had sold to the world. "Mommy, why are you looking at all those old papers?" Sophia asked from the living room, still in her own world of play. "Just sorting through some things, sweetheart," Lena said gently, though her eyes stayed locked on the documents with cold focus. The phone rang. It was Dr. Elaine Porter, the assistant principal at Sophia's school. Her tone was professional, but Lena could hear the discomfort beneath it. "Mrs. Williams, I think we need to have a conversation. Some of our more influential parents have raised concerns about Sophia continuing at our institution, given certain allegations about your past." 15 years ago, a call like that would have shattered her. Now, it made her lips curl into a slow, cold smile. "Dr. Chun, I understand," Lena replied. "How about we arrange a meeting? I have some information that might clear everything up." After ending the call, Lena reached into a drawer and pulled out an old, yellowed business card she had kept tucked away for years. The name read, Marcus Hale, Private Investigator, Reputation Recovery Specialist. He had given it to her 5 years earlier, back when he'd accidentally discovered that the missing Lena Carter was alive. Before becoming a detective, Marcus had been an investigative journalist, specializing in cases where powerful people destroyed lives from behind closed doors. When they met, he had offered to help her for free, but she wasn't ready then.
Tonight she was.
"Marcus," she said when he answered, her voice steady. "It's Lena Carter. I think it's time." 2 hours later, he was at her kitchen table, eyes bright with a thrill of unfinished justice. "Lena, I never stopped working your case," he said, sliding a thick folder toward her. "Vivian Lancaster didn't just ruin you. I found 6 other women, talented, promising, whose careers she destroyed over the past 2 decades. All Black or Latina. All taken down the same way. Fake scandals planted evidence, sponsors pressured until they cut ties." He spread photos across the table: a pianist, an opera singer, 2 stage actresses, a sculptor, a writer. Sophia wandered over, curious. "Mom, who are they?" "They're brave people, baby," Lena said, pulling her close. "People who were hurt, but still deserve justice." Marcus leaned in. "Here's the thing, Vivian doesn't work alone. She uses a PR firm that specializes in crisis manipulation. They build lies, spread them, and bury anyone who threatens their power." Lena scanned the papers with the same sharp focus she once used on sheet music. "You have proof? Financial trails, leaked emails, recorded calls. But I need her to slip up. I need her exposed in her own words. For the first time in days, Lena smiled, not warmly, but with the icy precision of someone who finally saw the game board clearly. Marcus, what if I told you Vivian will try to destroy me again in the next few days? And what if I told you this time I'm going to let her think she's winning? That's risky, he warned. She won't succeed. Lena cut in, her voice carrying a quiet, unshakable certainty. I know exactly how she works now. She unlocked her phone and showed him a WhatsApp group, former employees of the Regency Plaza Hotel. Waiters, security guards, receptionists, drivers, people invisible to the rich, but always watching. Do you know the advantage of being invisible to people like Vivian? She asked. They act like you're not there. They say things, leave things out in the open. For 15 years, I cleaned their offices, emptied their trash, handled their papers. And I documented everything. Marcus's eyes widened. You've been collecting evidence. Lena stood, walked to a closet, and pulled out an old shoebox. Inside were flash drives, photos, printed documents, and a small digital recorder. She thinks I'm prey, Lena said, her gaze burning. But she's been the one under surveillance. Sophia's eyes went wide. Mom, are you like a secret detective? Something like that, sweetheart, Lena said with a faint smile. Sometimes, when powerful people hurt others, someone has to keep the receipts. Marcus picked up one of the flash drives, turning it over in his hand. Lena, if this is what I think it is. It's exactly what you think it is, she cut in. Her voice was calm, but there was steel in it. Vivian Lancaster is about to learn that underestimating a woman who spent 15 years forced into the shadows was the biggest mistake of her life. Vivian had no idea her so-called next victim had spent the last decade and a half not just surviving, but preparing. And when someone who's been underestimated for that long finally decides to fight, the fall of the powerful isn't just certain. It's spectacular. The next morning, Vivian woke with the smug satisfaction of a woman convinced she was about to win. All night, she had been fine-tuning her final strike, a planted story in one of San Francisco's top newspapers, accusing the fake ballerina of emotionally manipulating a billionaire for money. Ethan will see exactly what she is, she murmured as she dialed the reporter she'd bribed. But the voice that answered was tense. Mrs. Lancaster, we have a problem. Someone leaked details of our agreement. And there's more. Documents about other women you helped remove from their positions. Vivian's grip tightened on the phone. What kind of documents? Bank transfers. Recordings. Emails. The Times has everything. The story goes live in 2 hours. Across town, Lena sat in Marcus Hale's apartment, no longer a frightened maid, but the centerpiece of a calculated operation. Around her were journalists, civil rights activists, and lawyers, ready to pull the curtain back on one of San Francisco's most powerful families. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus announced to the cameras, I present not only Lena Carter, one of the most gifted ballerinas of her generation, but the woman who has systematically documented 15 years of abuse of power by the Lancaster family. Ethan arrived just as the first live broadcast began, drawn by the urgent message she had sent. If you want to know the truth about your mother, come now. Lena, what is this? He asked, glancing at the cameras. You're about to see who your mother really is, she said, handing him a tablet. And why she destroyed my life, and the lives of at least 6 other women over the past 20 years. On the screen appeared recordings of Vivian instructing journalists to fabricate stories, bank transfers to PR firms that specialized in ruining reputations, and emails outlining how to erase undesirable elements from San Francisco's cultural scene. Ethan's face drained of color as his mother's voice played. These people need to remember their place. When they try to rise above their station, someone has to remind them of reality. My God, he whispered. She actually did it. Sophia was at school, far from the chaos, shielded from the storm her mother had been carefully setting in motion. Lena had made sure her daughter was safe before lighting the fuse that would tear through the Lancaster empire. At the Regency Plaza Hotel, Vivian sat in her suite when her own voice echoed through a national broadcast. A person like her should never have access to our world. It's about keeping the natural order of things. She reached for her lawyers, no answer. She called her loyal journalists, only to find they had already jumped ship. Within hours, Vivian Lancaster's name went from being spoken with respect to being whispered with contempt.
Her phone rang.
It was Ethan. "Mom, you need to explain these recordings." "Ethan, darling, you don't understand," she began quickly. "I did all of this to protect our family, to protect our legacy. You did it out of cruelty," he cut in, his tone ice cold. "And now you're going to have to face what comes next." Online, the world had already chosen its side. #JusticeForLena trended across continents. Millions watched clips of Lena dancing at the ball, her elegance playing side by side with footage of Vivian's venom. The contrast told a story no one could ignore. Marcus Hale appeared on national television, holding a folder thick with evidence. Vivian Lancaster, he told the cameras, used her influence to destroy the careers of gifted women, particularly Black and Latino women, because they challenged her idea of who deserved a place in San Francisco's art world. The fallout was swift. Corporations tore up sponsorship contracts with the Lancaster Foundation. Museums removed the family name from their walls. The Grand Pacific Opera House announced a formal investigation into decades of discriminatory practices. Desperate, Vivian tried to reclaim control with a televised interview. "These accusations are ridiculous," she insisted, smiling tightly. "I've always supported diversity in the arts." But Lena was ready. In the middle of the live broadcast, Marcus released a recording from just 6 months earlier, Vivian telling a wealthy donor that certain types of people were infiltrating spaces that didn't belong to them. The studio fell silent. The interviewer pressed play on another clip. Vivian faltered, contradicted herself, then abruptly stood and walked out. That night, Ethan showed up at Lena's apartment. Sophia was at the kitchen table, quietly doing her homework, unaware her mother had just dismantled one of the most powerful families in the country. "Lena," Ethan said, his voice heavy, "I need to apologize for my mother, for my family, for everything you've endured." "You don't need to apologize for crimes that aren't yours," she replied softly. "But you do need to decide what kind of man you're going to be from here on." Sophia looked up, curious. "Mom, why is everyone talking about you on TV?" "Because, sweetheart," Lena said with a gentle smile, "sometimes when powerful people hurt others, someone has to speak the truth. And today it was our turn." Across the city, Vivian sat alone in her vast, silent mansion. Her staff had quit, her so-called friends had vanished, and the foundation's board had voted her out. She stared at the skyline she once ruled over and realized too late that she had gravely underestimated Lena Brooks. The woman Vivian had once dismissed as nothing more than a timid cleaning lady had, in truth, spent 15 years quietly collecting evidence and building an army of allies, an army now dismantling her life piece by piece. She reached for her phone in a final, desperate attempt to call Ethan, but he didn't pick up. For years, she had wielded her influence to silence those she deemed unworthy. Now it was her own voice being drowned out, buried under the weight of her own corruption. As night settled over San Francisco, a new order emerged. The woman forced into invisibility for over a decade had not only reclaimed her voice, she had used it to rewrite the rules of power in the city she once cleaned in silence. 6 months later, Lena stood on the stage at the Westmont Theater, not in a maid's uniform, but as the artistic director of San Francisco's first truly inclusive ballet school. The funding had come from thousands of public donations after her story went viral, and from an unexpected benefactor, Ethan Lancaster. In the front row, Sophia, now 9, beamed in her ballet costume, dancing alongside children of every race and background. "Mom," she whispered before the curtain rose, "you turned your pain into something beautiful." Vivian Lancaster, meanwhile, was living in a small apartment in Brooklyn Heights. The foundation had been dissolved, her former friends avoided her, and her days were spent watching television segments celebrating the woman she had tried, and failed, to destroy twice. Ethan now ran the family empire and had redirected much of its fortune into social and arts programs. His first major donation, $10 million, went to Lena's school. On one of his rare visits to his mother, she asked, "Why are you doing this?" "Because I've learned that a legacy should be measured not by who we keep out, but by who we let in," he answered. Marcus Hale's book, The Dance of Justice, became a national bestseller. Lena used her share of the royalties to expand her school to other cities. In an interview with CNN, when asked about forgiveness, she said, "I forgave Vivian, not for her sake, but for mine. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences." Today, Lena's school trains over 500 children. Sophia, inheriting her mother's grace and fire, dreams of becoming a dancer herself. Only this time, she will grow up knowing her voice matters. One evening, during a performance, Vivian appeared quietly in the audience. Sophia noticed her and whispered to her mother, "I think she finally understands." Understands what, sweetheart? That talent has no color, and that when you try to dim someone else's light, you just leave yourself in the dark. Lena smiled and held her close. 15 years earlier, a young ballerina had been destroyed by prejudice and power. But from that wreckage, a stronger force had emerged, a woman who turned pain into purpose, humiliation into inspiration. True revenge had never been about crushing Vivian Lancaster. It was about building a future where children like Sophia would never endure what she had. It was proving that when someone tries to break you, the most powerful answer is not to sink to their level, but to rise so high that they become irrelevant. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that no matter how hard life tries to break you, your dreams are still worth fighting for, then make sure to subscribe to the channel. Because justice may take its time, but when it finally arrives, it doesn't just change lives, it rewrites history in a way the world will never forget.